I'm Runa Greiner, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I'm happy to be joined by Runa Greiner. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this interview. I'm so excited to dive into season one of Maxton Hall with you. But to start off, what can you share about your background in the arts and what sparked that passion in you?
Um, well, I guess it started from like an early age. Like there was always this passion within me. I know my mom always kept telling the story how I was like sitting in front of a mirror when I was like 3 years old and like watching myself crying. So I could like practice crying. And yeah, then obviously going to the drama club at school. I was never the kid that stayed in and watched like video games. I would always be the kid running around outside, making up all these crazy stories and kind of like replaying and reliving that. And I think that was probably the start of it all. And then I just ended up going to audition for like a children's agency, and it all went its way from there.
That's so cute, like that you, a young Runa, just running around playing make believe. I'm sure your parents have all these vivid memories of that
Yeah,
happening, and it's so nice to kind of look back and hopefully there's some old like videos or pictures so you can see where
yeah,
you
for sure.
started off to where you are now.
Yeah. There are like pictures of me in like costumes and stuff like this. And I know my mom always said like it started with like some sort of stories, but the stories I made up in my head, they got crazier and crazier. And I was like an orphan running away from bad people through the woods and stuff like this. I got a bit out of hand, I guess, but yeah, it got me here. So
Exactly, and that's the most important part is where you are today. And you did
yeah.
study at Konrad Wolf Film University. So tell me about your training there and the key lessons that you learned.
So I think the most important thing for me was that it was a training. Like we had like physical vocal training every day. So your body changes, your voice changes, how you move around, how you present yourself and stuff like this. And then obviously you learn all these different acting techniques and stuff like that. And for me, it was like with my university in particular, it's a bit different because we are a university, we have the same like education in like the general theater artistic play, but then we also specify in film acting. So that for me was really great because I never played theater before I went to university. I was always in the film industry. So I got to know that part within myself a little bit more. And we had this class where we would take a scene out of the play we were just playing and adapt it for the screen. So you could really learn about the differences, how big or small you can play things, what you can tell by only the eyes that you maybe cannot tell on stage for like the last row and stuff like this. And I thought that was always like super interesting. And I guess I'm like a very intuitive actress and I don't really use that much tools or techniques, but it's very helpful to have learned all this. So in case my intuition comes to a limit, I have these tools to like fall back on. So that is always a good thing.
That's really interesting because, a lot of people, I'm sure you even know people today that came from a theater background. So then for you, you're kind of doing it backwards, but it's always nice to have these different thought processes when you're, in a character. Even I'm thinking it opens your world in the future that, if you do want to do stage, you kind of have a bit more of a grasp on it now.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I definitely feel more comfortable on stage now. Like in the beginning of my studies, I felt a bit like on the wrong place and very like shy. And my teachers would always tell me, you gotta go bigger. And I was like, no, it doesn't feel natural. But I did got a lot more confident in it.
That's wonderful. And I'm curious because you have been working in film for some time, like since 2013, you've had film credits. So, not including Maxton Hall, which project has been the most defining role in your career so far and why?
I think it's different movies. I guess it's like my first movie for sure. It was like a student short film, and it was the first thing I've ever done. I was like 13, turning 14. I had a crazy summer in Berlin. My mom wasn't even there. I had like people to look after me, and I felt like all this freedom. And I think I had like the best experience with this project. And I think that really probably made me decide to like walk this way a little further. And then when I was 16, I was shooting this movie called Sitting Next to Zoe in Switzerland, and I had the best summer of my life. It was amazing. It was like a holiday trip with a little bit of work. And then for sure, The Empress on Netflix. That was like my first role that I booked for like an international streaming service. So that definitely changed a lot. And then there's so many. Yeah. Like
I
the
love that you
interpret
could probably name like all the films and projects that you've done just for different reasons.
yeah, all part of the way. I couldn't pinpoint down one particular movie. And I guess it's not always like the most successful or the most famous projects that I was in, but they were like the most important to me and to my way to like proceed with this career.
And with each project, you're always learning something new as well that you can take forward to new projects, right?
Like, you never stop learning with this job.
Another cool project you were a part of this year, you lent your voice to the role of Sophie in the audio drama Todesangst. So, how was that experience for you just acting through your voice? Were there challenges?
It was amazing. It was like I did some sort of these jobs, like little ones before, but this was like the first big job. I think I was in the studio for like 3 weeks, every day nearly, from like morning till the evening. It was January, so I never saw the sunlight because we were like in a studio where you had no windows. I think that was probably the biggest challenge to be like in these little rooms without an echo. Like you could go crazy because you would like the hearing is so different. But I had an amazing director. She usually tries to work as scenic as possible, even in the studio, and she tried to make everything I needed possible. She gave me like a lot of freedom. So I'd say in the end, I was probably just acting like I would act in front of the camera, just without a camera being there and just a microphone. Because you would still hear the little cracks in my voice, like when my colleague would like hold my hand or stuff like this. It changes, something in your body happens. It's like chemical reactions that you can hear in the voice. And this is like super amazing, like how much you can tell and that like every person listening to this audiobook, they can like imagine their own Sophie in their own world that she lives in. So that was a great experience for sure.
For you also, I'm wondering if your theater, like that stage background also comes into play a bit because you are having to focus on your voice. And I like that you were in that little kind of studio box also acting out the part as well. But like you said, listeners can't see you, so it's really just reliant on maybe playing things up just a little bit more than you would normally.
Yeah, like the hardest. So I'm not sure how I should translate it to English. In German, I call it Erlebnisgeräusche, which is like sounds of things that you experience. So, for example, it's like, let's say you're on a roller coaster. Your body is going to make sounds no matter what. That's just what happens. It happens naturally. You can't control it. But then try to play or act something like this with your voice without actually being on a roller coaster. This is so hard. This is like super uncomfortable. You have to like do this heavy breathing and it feels super unnatural, but it's so necessary for the audiobook to like create this whole world and stuff like this. So I guess that was actually the biggest challenge to play like these sounds of happenings that didn't actually happen to me.
I want to get into Maxton Hall, The World Between Us. For all those watching and listening, we are discussing spoilers, so please make sure you've watched season one before continuing. You, of course, Runa star as Ember Bell. So, what can you share about your audition process and what drew you to this project and your character?
Yeah, so I think my auditioning process was a little different to the others. So the audition process in general was, I guess it was like American style, where you get like a scene with the two main characters and everybody gets cast for the main characters, even though they kind of audition for other characters as well. And I had a friend in university, and she had to do a self-tape for Maxton Hall, which we didn't knew was Maxton Hall at this time. It had like a fake name, so nobody would find out that we are filming like these books and stuff. And it was a scene that was kind of like many scenes all in one, and like all the cheesy moments you can get put into one scene that didn't really make sense. And I helped my friend, and I was like, oh, that's a little cheesy. Oh, come on. I'm not sure if that's my vibe, if that's like my values and stuff like this. So then when I got the invitation to do a self-tape, I actually declined. I said, no, I don't want to do it. And then I went to university, and the casting director was actually giving a workshop in my university for my class. And he came up to me in lunch break and was like, Runa, why are you turning that down? What is going on with you? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I've watched it before and stuff like this. And he was like, oh, so fun fact, everybody, like the producer, the directors, the main cast, they're just across the street in the Babelsberg studios. Just go over and have a little chat with them. And I was like, well, okay, that must be destiny, kind of. Like, what a coincidence that on this day, they're like literally across the street from my university. So I went over there. I told them my concerns. They still wanted me to play Amber afterwards, which is insane, actually. So I promised them over the weekend I would read all the books, all the scripts I can get. I would read everything and then tell them my decision. And then I read the books, and I fell in love with Ember. And then there was no other choice but to do that project.
What a journey for you. I can't believe you initially turned them down. They must have
Yeah.
really wanted you for this part. The fact that, I mean, the casting director was like, why are you doing this? And I mean, walking into that room, so who did you meet that day that you went across the street?
I met Jaylan, our producer. I met Valentin, our producer. I met both the directors, Martin and Tarek. And actually, Harriet and Damien were there for like a test shooting. I think Damien already had the part, and I'm not sure if Harriet already had it, or maybe both had them. And they're like, both of them were like so confused. Like, what is this girl doing there, rocking up? She looks like she has a problem. So when I left, I remember Damien screaming after me, like, hey, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm fine. I don't have a problem, actually. So yeah, I talked to all the important people and was like, yeah, these are my problems. Um, but yeah, they won me over for sure. And now it's like even more insane to think that I turned it down before. Like I remember after like the success this series had now, I texted my mom and I was like, Mom, can you actually believe that I actually in the first place didn't want to do that? And she was just laughing. She was like, yeah, imagine you did that. So I'm very glad I did it in the end.
You were so perfect as Ember. And I know it's like, can you imagine watching the series back and seeing someone else in that role? And then you'd probably be thinking, oh, like I missed out on that opportunity. But I'm curious because you said you read Mona Caston's book series that weekend. So tell me about like your relationship with the series. Like what stood out to you from the story and with Ember?
So yeah, as I said, I just fell in love with Ember. I think these books are like so special because they tell a story, like this great love story that we all kind of dream about and that we're like all longing for. But then you have all these side characters that everybody finds someone to identify with. Like you have Alistair as like kind of the queer character with a queer love story. You have Lynn as an Asian girl just naturally being there without even that being a topic. You have Ran, he's black. We have Cash, he's Indian. We have me, I'm curvy. And it's like everybody finds someone to like kind of fit in and like all the things that usually in society they would maybe be discriminated for in these books and in the series, they're not their problem. And I think this is what makes it so special and what kind of like also healed my inner child like a little bit to read a book and to read this character of Ember that is like me, but her being fat is not the problem. And that is just, I had to do it. I was like, I have this responsibility on me now. Like, I need to be Amber. I need to try to be as aspiring as her. And then I am also a little sucker for rom-coms, I must admit. So
You're like,
I
what
think,
it all comes down to is just that rom-com story. But I love what you mentioned about the different characters. And, it's not their identities, all those kind of like differences that you might have mentioned. And they have their own stories and journeys as well, which is the key part for that and for you. Were there any other details that you kind of created yourself or discussed with others that didn't make it to the screen but helped you shape Ember?
so I don't think you can actually see that on screen. But I had like a talk with like the directors and with costume. So underneath my school uniform skirt, I'm wearing these biker shorts because I am a curvy girl, and if I don't wear them, I get chub rubbed to the max. So I have to wear them, otherwise I am in pain. And I told everyone that in case they accidentally are shown when I walk, I don't want anyone to fix that. Like if they show, I want them to show because this is just part of the life of a curvy girl. And every girl with like bigger thighs is gonna know what I am talking about. And why hide this? Like it's such a big part of my life. I guess it must be such a big part of Ember's life. So this was really important to me. I don't think in the end you can actually see it, but for me it was important that in case you see it, it's not hidden and they don't make it like look too perfect because this is just not how our world looks like. And I love even in this like perfect world of Maxton Hall to bring in these like little imperfections. And same as that, there's this scene where the family is like watching TV on the sofa, and I opened the button of my pants. And I remember someone coming up to me and was like, "Oh yeah, your pants are unbuttoned." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I know. I want them to be." Like she's chilling at home on the sofa. Why would she sit there with closed pants and like suffocate herself? Like let her be free. She's only with her family. And these are like the little moments, even though you don't see them, they really helped me with forming Amber as her character because she wouldn't mind these things. She would be so confident about these things. She would talk about these things so other people would also feel comfortable with it.
Thank you for sharing because I feel like bringing yourself into your character, like you mentioned, these are things that you would feel comfortable doing. So why can't Ember feel comfortable doing that, right? Like she has such a
Yeah.
good relationship with her parents and with her sister at home.
Yeah. Amber is even more confident about all these things that I am probably. So
Even like up one level, right? You're like, I want Ember's confidence level, and I'm sure you're hopefully getting there. Tell me about your version of Ember. Like, what do you think is important to her? What were the main kind of personality traits that you wanted to focus on in your portrayal?
But definitely the confidence, 100% for sure. Because I think it's so important to tell this curvy character with all this confidence she has. And this is what I loved also about Mona Kasten's version of Ember. Like she was written so well that I didn't really had to do a lot. I just had to like kind of try to step into Ember's step and try to be as confident as she is. And like I have still so much to learn from Ember, but I think this is what makes her so special, that she really believes in herself. She truly believes that she is beautiful, that she is worthy. She has all these dreams and ambitions, and she's so driven. She's very sassy and cheeky, which I love about her. But even though I think Amber just has like the biggest heart, like she's super caring, like she has all this love for her family and for her sister. She wants everyone to feel good and to be happy. And no matter what would happen, Amber would always be there. Like I'm so sure about that. So I think this is what I focused on the most.
She's definitely cheeky. I love that there's that scene where her and Ruby are walking back. So she's a little flirty as well. There's that confidence and the sarcasm. It's just great to have like that kind of sister figure there that can be that voice of reason, but also be playful. So in terms of similarities and differences between Ember and yourself, what were the major ones? Or like we were kind of talking, did you see her as a bit of an extension of yourself, but maybe just toned up a little?
Yeah, I guess she's me a little toned up. I do think I have a lot of her. I guess just, being a curvy girl and her being a curvy girl just makes it easy to relate and to imagine what she might have experienced and what I have experienced and stuff like this. And I do come off as confident, I guess, a lot of times, but I mean, as we all do. I have my insecurities and I have my doubts. And in these moments, I love that I have Amber now in my life to remind me on all the good things and to be proud of myself and to not hide myself away. So I do have a lot to learn from her. But we are kind of similar. We are both very creative and ambitious, but not like choosing the classical way and stuff. Um, Her more with fashion, me with acting, obviously, and stuff. And with the differences, well, I guess the biggest difference is the age. Like, I mean, Amber is 16, I'm 27. So I guess I am definitely older and more experienced than her, but I don't think in the end that makes that big of a difference because I've been 16 before and I've experienced the things she goes through. So I can easily relate and like slip into this role.
I'm curious about the Bell's family dynamic. So could you talk a bit about that and in particular Ember's relationship with her parents? So we'll talk about her relationship with Ruby in just a bit, but how do you think, she's grown up with her parents? Anything about her childhood and upbringing?
So like the Bells are this loving and full-hearted family, and I think Amber grew up with a lot of love, and I think both the girls grew up with like very good values. For me, I think their parents teach them that what is within you and the values you have is way more important than any earthly possession or any sort of looks. And I think that really formed them in the confidence they have in the way they want to go, the way they want to pursue. I think both of them really believe that they can achieve what they want to achieve. And I guess that has a lot to do with their parents, with the Bell family. But then also, obviously, there's all this love, but times are not always happy. And I think the one problem of the Bell family is that they just don't talk about the bad stuff. So I'd say this is like the one problem they have within their family. But other than that, it's just love and warm hugs.
Hard times and hard moments that they don't talk about was the boating accident primarily. So how do you think that that accident affected Ember personally? Like how has her mindset been through all of this?
Well, like it must have affected her for sure. Like she must have been very little because even Ruby was very young when that happened. So I'm not sure if she like consciously remembers everything, but I mean, it is a traumatizing experience, um, especially for such a young girl. But I think that as they never really talked about, not just with Ruby, but I think in the family in general, Amber was just like going with it. I think she wasn't really like trying to let this like hold her back or questioning it. And like for her dad being in a wheelchair, I think it doesn't matter for her. Like her dad is her dad, no matter if he's in a wheelchair or not. Like, of course, it's part of him, but that has nothing to do with the relationship she has with him or with the way she sees her father. Like it's her dad and that's it. And I think like also coming to like the financial problems and stuff, I guess it forms her in a way that she wants to change the world in some kind of way. She wants to open ways for girls or people that have similar problems to her, like as she like creates her blog and stuff. And I think she would want like the clothes that she creates to be affordable for everyone. And I think this is a big part of how she grew up and the problems that she went through with her family.
For sure. And it's interesting to think about it from that standpoint because, like you mentioned, they never really talked about it, but it just kind of became the norm for their family. Like, with the mom probably having to pick up a lot of the financial slack or with the absence of the dad not being able to work. And then even with Ruby and Ember having that added responsibility as well for taking care of him and making sure that he has what he needs. You mentioned that Ember was 16 in the show. So Ruby, I think she turns 18 in season one. So in the books, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ember's older than Ruby in the books.
In the books, she's 16, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh my God, correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as I remember the books, Amber was 16 and Ruby was 17, then turning 18. In the series, we kind of like cut out all the like little or older or bigger or smaller sister, as I am like not only older than Amber, but I'm also a few years older than Harriet. And I do look young, but I was talking to the directors and everyone about it, and I was like, hey, let's not risk anything that anyone is like complaining, like, oh my God, she's older. Let's just cut this out and like leave it to the audience if they want to see me as the little or the big sister. I guess still because, especially in Germany, as so many people have read the books, I think a lot of them still see me as the little sister. I'm not sure how it is for like you Americans if you had the feeling of me being the older sister. I tried within my play to be, sometimes responsible and sometimes a little childish. So I'm not sure how I got away with that. But in the series, we don't really comment who is older and who's younger.
It's not defined, like you mentioned. It can kind of be up to the imagination, but I do really think that you had elements of both because you had like the responsibility with the dress and you can see how like crafty Ember is, but at the same time, when Ruby has, let's say, that letter from James and that gift, she's running around chasing her. So I do think you played into both really well. So at least for the viewer's perspective. How would you describe Ember and Ruby's relationship? Like, how do they complement each other with their differences? And what does Ember maybe see in Ruby that Ruby doesn't always see in herself?
So I think they're not actually that different. I think they are both very similar. They're very passionate and driven and ambitious, and they both have like these big dreams, and they're both very caring and loving. They just chose different paths. Like Ruby chose the more academical path, and then Amber chose a bit more of like a creative path. But I think in their core values and characteristic, they're very similar. But I guess when it comes to differences, they complement each other in a way that, like, I think Amber's sassiness can like kick Ruby in the butt a little bit. and like get her out of her shell and like loosen up a little bit. And at the same time, Ruby can like kind of mm, calm Ember down and like teach her how to not be so super reckless at points. So I think they complement each other perfectly, actually. Like, I think they're a very, very good pair of sisters. And what Ember sees in Ruby that she might not see herself as, I guess, just like, as Ember has like the outer perspective and she's like observing her, sometimes you realize more than the person living through it. And I guess um, Ember sometimes sees how like Ruby pushes herself to the limits to achieve what she wants to achieve. And I think sometimes she wishes for her that she kind of like relaxes a little bit, lets a little bit more loose, like takes a bit better care of herself and her mental health and stuff. Like, just take a break from time to time. The world isn't that serious. And I think, yeah, this is kind of what she observes and what she's also very proud of, but what makes her worry from time to time. Yeah.
You can kind of see that with, Oxford and the stresses that she puts on herself, even like the father and Amber giving her the kind of prep books for her birthday. It's kind of like she says it because she knows that Ruby wants the book, but it's also a bit of like rolls her eyes, like, come on, like you shouldn't have needed to have this for your birthday gift. Have something, different, have something fun. Do
Yeah.
you ever think there's ever jealousy with Ruby's scholarship into Maxton Hall, or is Ember like very happy at public school being independent without her sister around?
I don't think she's jealous at all at that because I think Amber realizes that Ruby just chose a different way and that is not Amber's way. And I think she's very happy at her public school. I think she would be either very lost at Maxton Hall or she would turn into the queen bee. You never know. I don't even know what would happen if we would send Amber to Maxton Hall. But I don't think she's jealous of that. I think she's very proud of her sister. I think she's insanely happy for her and very supportive, even though sometimes she don't really understand why you would put yourself through all this stress just to go to this university, as I think Amber doesn't see for herself this kind of education as that important, but she doesn't need it for the future and the goals that she envisions for herself. So, and I do believe she kind of enjoys going to school without being watched by her sister. I can imagine that very well.
Tell me about Ember's love of fashion and design. Like, how do you think that passion originated for her? And when did she create her blog and online shop?
So for sure, it came out of like, as a fat girl, as a curvy girl, it is definitely hard to find cool clothes that fit you, to go shopping at stores that have your sizes. I mean, they live in Gormsey. I am very sure that in Gormsey there is no plus size shop that has cool clothes for young girls. So I know that Amber started like making her own clothes just because she couldn't find any cool clothes for herself. And I can actually really relate to that. That's something we definitely have to change even more in our society nowadays. But it's amazing that Amber had this ambition to say, like, okay, nobody makes these clothes for me. I'm just gonna do it myself then because I want to look cool. I want to look sassy and classy and fancy. So I'm just gonna make it myself. And I guess this is also how she came up with the blog to like share her experiences, to share recommendations for like online shops where she find cool plus size clothes, for tips how to like make them yourself and stuff like this, which is amazing, I'd say.
There's so much like passion and ambition in taking on, a project like that. And I love that the blog is or the shop is called Bellbird by Ember. It's such a fitting, like cute name for the character and obviously like an homage to her family as well. What do you think are her dreams and career goals after school?
I think she definitely wants to become like a big fashion designer, just to like follow her passion, but then also create a brand that makes sustainable, affordable, cool fashion for everyone, plus sizes and stuff. So everyone has the opportunities to wear these clothes, to look as cool as they want to look like. And I think her ulterior motive is like with like creating this brand and becoming a fashion designer to change the world and to make it like a more like a better place and a more like diverse place and more accepting of all the different shapes of bodies that there are.
Do you think that she has any kind of self-doubts or, about going into this industry? Because there is a scene that I thought was really interesting with Ember and Ruby is when Ruby was helping her take photos for her blog. And there was almost like a question of self-image there because she was looking through the photos and she really like wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how confident Amber is, she's in the end of the day also just a human, and we all have doubts and insecurities. But I guess something like this would never stop Amber from achieving her dreams. And even though she's super confident, she is still a curvy girl in this world, in this society, fighting her fights with body images and stuff like this. So for sure, she has these like doubts and insecurities. But I guess for me, like how I see Amber, it would be like they come up within her head and she would immediately use them as fuel to actually then even more prove everyone wrong and do it even better and faster and crazier and stuff like this. I think it's more like, yeah, like a fuel than it stops her.
So Ember stays up all night. She helps Ruby sew and create that Victorian dress, which Ruby then accidentally burns a hole into. But Ember is not mad. They share a laugh about it. Take me through her emotions and why it didn't seem to be a big loss for her, at least outwardly.
Well, I guess it's because it's about Ruby. Like making this dress was never about Ember. Making this dress was always to help Ruby, to support her. So once it's broken, it's like Ruby's well-being is the first priority and everything else comes second. So I don't, of course, in the first moment, she's obviously shocked, but everybody would be, I guess. But I think her second thought is, of course, like, oh shit, what is she gonna do? Like, how are we gonna fix this? Like, can she use that? Like, I don't think even for a second she thinks about herself or how many hours of work went in that. Like, it's about Ruby and nothing else.
And they have such a, close, tight relationship that it's so believable that for Amber, she's just like, she can see Ruby's heartbreak and knows it wasn't intentional. And I have to say, putting out a fire the way that she did was so dangerous. They are lucky that they still have their house after that. Is there anything you remember, from behind the scenes of the scenes that you shared with Harriet? Like, were any of the interactions that you two had improvised?
Well, the scenes like in the kitchen when the family was cooking, they were like improvised, or the montage of us making the dress through the night. There was a lot of improvised stuff. Other than that, I think so. Every time we were laughing, we were laughing. Like that would like we didn't have to act to laugh. It just kind of happened every time. Um, so I'm not sure if you can call that improvised, but that was definitely not acting. That was actual laughing.
So is it one of those things where they kind of give you like an idea of maybe what's happening in the scene, and then you two kind of you do have your script, like your lines, but like you mentioned the laughing, like it just kind of comes out naturally, right?
Yeah. Or like, the way we hug, that all this stuff, like you have your lines, you have obviously the scene, but then the way we act with each other, like the way we lay down on the bed, for example, when Emma was comforting Ruby. So this is all like what came from me and Harriet just by acting the way we acted. Like this is mostly like you have the scene, you try to rehearse it. This is what we envisioned, we played it, everybody liked it, so this is what we went from.
How was it working opposite Harriet? Like, what can you say about her as a person and as a scene partner?
Well, it was amazing. Like we didn't had to like act at all. Like we instantly clicked from the get-go. I remember I think I'm not sure when the first time I saw her was obviously when I talked to the directors and stuff, but I think then the next time was maybe at the fittings, at the test screening, or even the reading rehearsal. And like we just clicked. We became very good friends right away. It was not like we didn't have to play this sister bond. It was just kind of there immediately. We had so much fun. We were like laughing so much. We were sharing like also like about our private life. We were sharing so much with each other, like really opening up to each other. So we actually created this kind of sister-like bond within our private friendship. And I guess you can really tell on the screen that what we play there is like just super real because this is how I see Harriet and I adore her. I am insanely proud of her and all that she's doing. I think she's an amazing actress. I think she's an amazing person. Um, yeah, I'm so grateful to have her in my life and to be on this crazy journey with her and all the rest.
That's so sweet, and you can see how close you are. That natural chemistry just comes through on the screen. Did you ever discuss your characters' relationship together, or did you kind of just have your own ideas for your characters and then let it play out when you were filming?
I don't think we ever discussed it. I don't remember actually, but I don't think so. I think it was just like we were just vibing so well that we didn't have to talk about it because as me and her were vibing, obviously our characters that we envisioned were vibing as well, kind of. It just like fell into places, like we didn't really have to do a lot.
I think that's also kind of a callback to what you mentioned about, they don't talk about maybe while they're really close and share maybe some personal life, they don't talk about difficult things. So it's almost like you want to have your own character's thoughts and then have it just play out, on the screen when you're filming. How much do you think Ruby shares with Ember about her relationship with James and what's going on at Maxton Hall? Like, does Ember have any idea?
Yeah, no, not so much. Like as you just said, they don't talk about stuff like this. I think Amber knows most of it by just observing. I think Amber's a very observative person and she can sense a lot. I don't think Ruby tells her that much about James, even though Amber would love to know. I think she's really up for the gossip and stuff like this. Um, I also don't think that Ruby tells her that much about Maxton Hall as well because she wants to kind of like protect her sister from this world because she obviously sees how many bad things exist within this like rich society in this rich world and how much she suffers from it. And Amber's a very curious girl, so I think she just wants to like keep that away from her as much and as long as possible. So I think everything that Amber knows comes from her own observations and her own interpretations, I guess.
Very, very fair because she sees James outside with his driver, that they leave the gifts. She sees Ruby wearing James's hoodie. So do you think she has any opinions on him given, what she's observed?
I think at one hand she's really excited because it's exciting. There's this guy and he comes with like a driver and stuff like this, and I mean, obviously, she finds out he's a Beaufort, and for her, Beaufort is like this big fashion brand as well. But then I also think, obviously, she observes how he impacts Ruby's emotions, and that not just in a positive way. So I don't really think she has the best opinion of James. I think she's very protective of her sister. So yeah, I would not wish for him to meet her in a few points, actually. But yeah, no, I think she's curious. I think she's excited, but then also very like cautious around that topic because she doesn't want her sister to get hurt.
In episode 6, Ruby, Ember, and I'm assuming their parents, they all contribute to purchasing the new chairlift. So tell me about Ember's role in that. And did the dress idea come about after, the family found out that Ruby wanted to bear this responsibility on her own?
So I think they are a family. They actually do everything together usually. Like they stick together, they support each other, they're always there for each other. So for Amber, it was natural to just wanna like play her part in it and like contribute to the thing to the live for her father. I don't actually think that she saved up just like Ruby because maybe she's not that responsible as Ruby is and doesn't think so far. But as soon as she knew that this, like Ruby was saving up, it was obvious to her that she would never ever let Ruby do that on her own and that she would find a way to like put her share into it as well.
And that dress was such a good idea to help, push them maybe like over the limit of what they needed. And that scene in the bed was such a sweet scene where there are a lot of tears, real tears, happy tears on set that day for it.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of emotions for sure. You can really feel like the tensions also like on set with everybody like watching. But as it was such an like happy moment, actually, it just felt like at home, actually. I don't think there was like I don't know, we were all just feeling super comfortable being with each other in this like huge hug and everything just felt like so warm and stuff.
How special were all of the family scenes to film with Harriet, Angus, and Julia Maria? Like, did you get along, get to know your on-screen parents off-screen as well, and kind of build that familial relationship?
I think like they were for sure very special because it's always like when you play a family with people you actually don't know and you have to pretend that they're your parents. It's always a bit weird, but um they made it like so easy for us to like them. They were like also very like heartful and loving and caring. So it wasn't really hard to pretend to be their daughter. And also like, especially in these family scenes, as I said, like the scene on the bed or in the kitchen where they were cooking, a lot of things were improvised. So we were like literally just having fun and like joking around and like going with the flow. So it was for sure very easy. And then, of course, I had Harriet always with me. So that was not hard at all.
Which was your favorite scene in season 1 that Ember was not in, and why?
I don't think there is one particular scene. I think I have a few little moments that I just love. Like there is this scene of Alistair in the pub where he's like a bit jealous with Cash and he's doing this so funny laugh. Like I love this scene. It's amazing. Then I love every reaction of Kieran. I think Frederick played that so well. Like he's for me just a genius. I really love the little moments with the carrot that Lynn has, or the little dance that she does with Kieran. I love the scene where James is doing the presentation for young Beaufort, and Lydia is sitting on the table and she's like whispering the speech like along James because she actually wrote it. I think this is just genius, and this gives her character like so much depth and stuff. And then I definitely also love the scene on the lacrosse field when Ruby comes up to James being the bigger person, and something within him changes and he starts falling in love. Um, like I love these little moments they have. I think that's just amazing.
And also, it's very like character building, all these things that you're talking about. Like, you're getting to know more about their personality through these moments. And the Alistair one in the bar was so funny because he was like mimicking the girl that was with Kesh. And then was it James that kicks him and he's like, stop it, like you're being too obvious.
Oh, I love this scene. I really love it so much. I'm a big fan of Justus as well.
In the books, we know that Ember ends up in a relationship situation ship with James's friend Wren. So in season one, like, did you and Ishmael ever discuss this plot point and how you could be working together more in the future? And we will note to all those watching that we are not talking season two spoilers at all, but just like, in season one, did you two ever think about that because you read the book, so you know that this could have been upcoming?
Yeah, of course you do. I think that's natural. When you start working together and you know that there is a possibility of you having romantic scenes in the future, of course, at some point you would talk about it. And I remember, I think I read the books before Ishmael did. So I actually told him like, oh yeah, like if they are gonna do it like they did it in the books, we're gonna end up kissing each other. And I remember this moment as well, and that we like talked about how we have to like kind of like get along with each other. So we if it comes to that point, we are gonna be able to play this romantic scenes that Amber and Ren have together.
Was there like excitement on your part for it? Like, what were your thoughts about bringing their evolving relationship to screen? Because in the books, it does kind of have a bit of an up and down kind of process. So, I mean, is it exciting for you to know that you could have, possibly a bigger storyline or arc?
I, for me, it's like I love their love story. I love that it's like a bit of a slow burn, and I love that it's somehow a bit of a friendship to lover situation, more like an enemy to lover situation. And I just love the relationship both of them have. And for me, especially also as a curvy girl, I think it is amazing to tell the love stories of curvy people as well, because they're just as worthy of love as everyone else. And I just love how attracted Ran is to Ember and how he's like really falling for her character, and how much that shows that Ember is so worthy of love and a relationship and stuff like this. So I am hoping that we get to play this at some point and we get to like experience it and explore this relationship they have, because I think it means a lot as like to me, and I can imagine it meaning a lot to a lot of people out there as well that are fans of the books or of the series as well.
Young girls that maybe see themselves in Ember. And I do have to say, from season one, if it happens, Ren has a lot of growing up to do because he was kind of obnoxious. And Ember, she deserves better, in my humble opinion. So we'll see what happens, and how
Yeah.
that friendship and attraction would grow if the writers bring it to screen. Are there any other specific storylines with Ember or any other the other characters that you would like to maybe explore and see, like, fingers crossed for the writing room to make these happen?
Yeah, for sure. Like the girl friendships that are gonna like in the second book in particular that gonna build up. I think it's always amazing to tell stories where girls support girls. I think it's so strong. Then as I said, definitely the love story of Ember. And then I would love to see more of Alistair and Alistair's dating life just because I love this character so much. I'm a big fan of Justus and his work. I would also like to see like Kieran, for example, to like finally realize maybe Ruby is not his girl, and so he can like be set free and go find his own happiness as well. Like I'm a sucker for that for sure.
I know him hiding after Ruby when her heart is not there. It's just kind of so hard to watch in some moments, but he plays it off so well because he really, like I was talking to Frederick, and Kieran, he still believes that he has a chance. Like he hasn't shut it down yet, but I guess we'll see what happens in season two. You mentioned the girls. I would love to see Ember interact more with, James, Lydia, and Lynn, and kind of seeing where those relationships go. So on that note, like what is your relationship like with the rest of the cast? Like did you visit set a lot during the Maxton Hall days because you were kind of confined to the family scenes in season one?
Yeah, I love them all. Like we all became very good friends, which is just amazing because like also with this series being so successful, it is crazy. It is literally crazy times and you are literally living through these times with your friends. Like I remember on the premiere in Berlin, people were asking like, "Oh my God, are you so nervous?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I've got my friends here with me." And they're experienced just the same thing as I do. So we really became like a little family, and this is worth so much. It happens sometimes on movie sets, but it doesn't happen every time. So we were really lucky about that. And yeah, you're so right. Like I remember in the first season, I was shooting the first few weeks, and when I was done shooting, everyone else started. So I never met them on set. The only people I met on set was the Bell family and James, I think, for one day when he was looking into the window, actually. But we were kind of already starting to hang out after shooting days a few times with each other. So we kind of like got to know each other as well. And then I went to visit them actually quite a lot. I went to Hannover, where they shot the school scenes for like a few days to go see them. I was in Berlin, obviously, when they were still shooting to visit them. I was there on the last shooting day. So I guess this is how all these friendships still kind of evolved and were created because I just loved them and I missed them. And I was a bit like, you were actually good that you want to see Amber interact more with the other characters. I would love that too. So I can actually be on set with my friends and not be like stuck in the Bell house.
I love that you were able to form those relationships even without sharing scenes with them in season one. What can you say about the crew that you worked with on Maxton Hall?
Oh, they were all super nice. We had a good crew. It was fun times. I mean, as I just said, I wasn't working with them for too long. I was not like I was only visiting them, but I know there was a big like class trip feeling when all of them went to Hannover. I like, for example, Gabriella, our costume designer, I worked with her on The Empress before, so I knew her already, and I was like so happy to work with her again. And yeah, it was just, we had a lot of fun.
Tell me about the fan support and messages that you've seen and received since season one was released. Like, what has that meant to you, and was the response unexpected?
It's like it is, there is actually no words for it. Like, it is insane how much can change within your life just through one project. Like, from a few other projects in that I did in Germany, I knew the feeling like of being recognized on the street, but it happened like once or twice. a month, and now it happens nearly every day, and people come up to you and they're like telling you how much they love the series, and I get messages all the time. And I think what touches me the most and what I'm so happy and grateful for is that people share their stories with me, their struggles, how they see themselves within Ember, how like aspiring they find her confidence, and how I played this. And this is exactly why I fell in love with Ember. And this is exactly the reason why I really wanted to play this character, because I knew there were gonna be people out there that go through hard times, that question their body and their looks, and that just need that little push of confidence and this proof that being fat and curvy is not your problem, and it doesn't have to be your problem, and you're so worthy of friendship, of family, of love, of everything. And just reading these messages that people tell me that me and Amber healed their inner child, that literally made me tear up, because this is the reason I'm an actress. Like, this is all I want to do for the world, like make it a bit of a better place and help people be comfortable and confident and stuff like this. So that is like, yeah, it's insane. Like, it is a lot. It's a lot to take in. It can be overwhelming from time to time. I wasn't that big of like an Instagram, TikTok girl before. Like, I'm trying to keep up with all the others. They're very good at this. I am not, but I'm trying to keep up with them a little bit. But I'm just so thankful. I'm beyond grateful for all the support and messages that we get, and I can't believe what's going on at the moment, actually.
And there's more, good times to come with that. And you're making such a positive change. And, with Amber, what's also just so defining is the fact that her body doesn't define her and her story. And I love that people are coming to you and you're feeling open enough to be vulnerable with you as well. And it must be just such a gift as an artist to hear that. So, we talked about season two being officially kind of in production. How has it been being back on set? Obviously, you can't say where you're filming, what scenes you're in, but just the overall atmosphere, because I feel like it was a very short turnover time between season one being released, although I know you filmed it some time ago, and then just being back in production already.
Yeah, so I can't tell so much about set actually, but like just the moment we knew that we were renewed for a second season was obviously super exciting. And then just before we started shooting, we all came together and we had the reading rehearsals and we started like costume and like makeup fittings and stuff. And it was just amazing to have everyone together again and go for dinner afterwards and stuff like this. It hasn't been that much time that we didn't see each other because the premiere wasn't actually that long ago. But it's just like every time we see each other, it's like no time has passed and we jump right into this like family dynamic that we have. And it's really exciting for sure.
And being able to celebrate together as well, like because it's still like being on this high from climbing the charts and doing so well. So it's nice to have that group that you can kind of come together and speak about this with. I have a couple more questions for you. So on Instagram, you regularly share posts related to body positivity and mental health. So I know you kind of talked about this a bit before, but tell me about the importance of these topics for you, including the mental health and wanting to share these messages with others.
I think it's so important to talk about this openly because it kind of like takes the stigma away from it and it opens up a topic, and we don't talk about it enough. And I think this is maybe also a reason why a lot of people are not educated enough with it. You don't need to be affected by some certain things of mental health, but you should always have an education and an understanding for the people around you that might go through depression, through anxiety and stuff like this. And I think it's just so important to like share your story because I do kind of through my job have a bit of a following and I have a bit of a voice, and I want to use this voice and I want people to know that they're not alone within these feelings. Because I remember when I went through depression and anxiety, I was Googling a lot about how am I feeling and what does that mean? And I felt kind of alone and lost within these feelings. And I remember I was being like super cheesy and looking up these like Pinterest quotes that kind of like made me relate to it. And I felt like I would have needed someone that told me they go through the same thing, and especially maybe somebody that I look up to or that inspires me. Because just to know, like, oh my God, this person had depression too, or this person is struggling from anxiety as well. I thought I was the only one, but even like, for example, this actress that I admire in this series, she's going through the same thing. So I'm not just crazy, I'm not alone with this. I think this is like so important. And I could have used that a lot. So I really want to be that for other people. And also with body positivity, obviously I'm affected by this. I'm affected by like body discrimination. I was always a bit on the chubbier side growing up. And of course, I feel what it means to be this chubby girl in the world and in the society that we're still living in. And I think that makes me really understanding of all the forms of discrimination. And I, I just, I honestly just don't get it. Why we are doing this? Like, what is, I mean, on like an intellectual note, I do understand where it comes from and what is fueling it and stuff like this and what the profit of it is for some people. But for me, it's just like like I love the differences in everyone and I love each individual beauty. And I'm just so sick of making all these differences. And I'm so sick of young girls and boys standing in front of the mirror and not being happy with their own bodies, with like their literal house. Like, this is what you carry around with yourself every single day for the rest of your life. This is the closest thing to an actual home that you ever have. So, why would you hurt that? Why would you like want to change that so bad just because some idiots around you in your school or on the internet tell you you're not worthy of anything? And that just makes me so angry. And I just want to tell the whole world that you're just okay the way that you look and you're amazing the way that you are. And beauty comes from within. And it's about your character and the values that you have and how you walk around on this beautiful planet and how you treat other people and the earth. And it's not about these 5 kilos more or less, or if you're this tall or this short, or if who you love, it just doesn't fucking matter.
So well said. And I have to say, even your past posts, like you're so raw with your captions about, self-love and healing in your own journey. So thank you for sharing all of that and just opening that dialogue because like you mentioned, it's so unfortunate. It makes me so angry to see. And a lot of it comes from, society and societal pressures. And while I feel like that is getting a bit better. There's still a long ways to go, even like in marketing and things. You see like fashion campaigns, and so it's important to at least open that door and be able to have these conversations. Well, I have one more question for you, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Oh, that is a crazy question. Um, I'm not even sure if you have some of the flavors we have in Germany and America, because sometimes we have these like weird flavors. I say my favorite ice cream flavor is hazelnut, but if I was an ice cream flavor, we have this ice cream that is like blue and it tastes like bubble gum. And it has different names to it. It has like the Smurf ice cream or bubble gum or like sky blue, we call it. And I think I would be this ice cream just because I would love to imagine myself this colorful and bubbly as this ice cream is.
That sounds like a really fun flavor. I'll have to check it out if we have anything similar over here. I haven't heard
Oh,
of it, but if it tastes like bubble gum and it's bright blue, that's definitely like the party ice cream that you want to bring places.
for sure. And not a lot of people like it here. It's more like a children's ice cream, actually. But I still like it.
And it could be nostalgic too, which is a good quality to have.
Exactly.
Runa, it's been such a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, well, hopefully we can catch up in the future, maybe Maxton Hall season 2. But until then, for all those watching, catch Runa and Maxton Hall, The World Between Us season 1 is streaming now on Amazon Prime Video. Season 2 is on its way, and we will see you next time.
Bye.